members to introduce themselves, starting with far right.
John Smith, Board of Finance.
Mike Lamoth, Board of Finance.
Ellen Zappo, City Council.
Derek Jankowski, Board of Finance.
Rich Meisenkowski, City Council.
Cheryl Tebow, Board of Finance.
Eric Carlson, City Council.
Mary Fortier, City Council.
Calvin Brown, City Council.
J.K. Lear, Board of Finance.
Teresa Pack, Town Clerk.
Assistant Don Lavella.
I'm Mayor Ken Cockane. Item number 1.
Approval of minutes of the regular joint board meeting on June 9th, 2015.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2.
It's the consent calendar, and there are 7 items. 2A is to make an additional appropriation of $9,895 within the Special Education Grant Fund for the State Adult Education Provider Grant funded by grant revenue. 2B is to transfer $5,155 within the Community Development Block Grant for overtime, travel reimbursement, and commercial rehabilitation. 2C is to transfer $258,740.56 within the Community Development Block Grant for housing rehabilitation. 2D is to make an additional appropriation of $131 within the Special Grants and Donations Fund funded by donations. Item 2E is to transfer $17,966.74 within the Inter-District Cooperative Grant to cover overages. 2F is to make an additional appropriation of $5,000 within the Special Grants and Donations Fund for the Click It or Ticket grant funded by grant revenue. And 2G is to make an additional appropriation of $21,284 within the Special Grants and Donations Fund for the Cavanta Outreach grant funded by grant revenue.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 3.
To transfer $5,500 within the general fund from the Department of Aging's operating budget to operating transfer out special revenue.
Approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4.
To make an additional appropriation of $5,500 within the Equipment Building Sinking Fund for the purchase of gym equipment at the Senior Center. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.
To transfer $847,945 within the Capital Projects Fund to cover overages.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6.
To make additional appropriations totaling $19,068 within the Capital Projects Fund to close out projects.
Move it. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7.
To decrease appropriations by $1,158,142 within the Capital Projects Fund to close out projects.
Move approval. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 8.
To transfer $46,235 within the Capital Non-Recurring Fund to cover overages.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9.
To make additional appropriations totaling $22,142 within the Capital Non-Recurring Fund to close out projects.
Move it. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9. 10.
To decrease appropriations by $237,138 within the Capital Non-Recurring Fund to close out projects.
Move it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 11.
Monthly revenue and expense report presentation by the Comptroller.
Good evening, everyone. Not too much to report tonight. We have a special event occurring tomorrow. As you saw in your packet, we're rolling over and selling $4.7 million of notes regarding the mall property, and that's a taxable note. But the timing is still good. I mean, we expected the feds to raise rates. They haven't done it yet, so we'll probably come in at very low rates. The laws have changed with regards to rolling notes. It used to be years ago, say 6, 7 years ago, well, before 7 years ago, you can only roll them for 3 years. This is our 7th year of rolling the notes. We purchased the property for $7.1 million. Bond council deemed it taxable, and we've been rolling the notes over and paying down now for, I think this is the 7th year, so we got 3 more years to go. However, next year is probably going to be one of our larger debt issuances because we've been accumulating a lot of authorized and unissued debt, and it's time to to get that off the books and get it issued. But there'll be a 1-year delay in the payments, so next year's taxes won't rise dramatically because of that. We can delay 1 year to the following year and possibly put some funds aside to anticipate a sharp spike in any debt service. So we're going to issue the notes tomorrow when we, at noonish. When we get the rates, we'll disseminate them to you, and so you know what the rates are. I'm anticipating well under 2%, maybe 1.5%. Yeah, it's still a very good environment for that. Our, with regards to the budget, the revenues are in line with what we expected. Expenditures, obviously, it's not winter, are also in line. A lot of road projects, as you see, going on based on a one-time grant we received. So we needed to get that done by June 30th, and Walter and his crew did a fine job of doing that. So our budget is in line. Our auditors are in. They're over on the Board of Ed. We haven't seen them for about a week on our side, but very shortly they will be back. And we intend to close the books in about another 2-3 weeks or so. So it's a non-event month as far as finance is concerned, other than the issuing of the rolling of the notes. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Glenn, these are the new auditors, correct?
Yes.
How's the relationship going?
Well, it's like anything else. We're in our infancy. We're getting to know each other. So far, so good, but it's way too soon to tell because we haven't really given them the documents of the balance sheets and the statement of revenues and expenditures and all the detail that goes along with it. They're doing what they call stat testing right now, checking to make sure that the expenditures are appropriate. We did it in line with our policies and procedures, so it's a little bit too early to tell about that. But one of the things I should mention also is that we're working diligently, our side in the Board of Education, to implement the Affordable Care Act. Like W-2s, we have to issue what's called a 1095 in January. And this is going to cost some funds, which we're taking from the Health Benefits Fund. We've also got to deal with the Cadillac tax. But most municipalities and businesses are really not ready to deal with this 1095 issue, and then a 1094 is the leader to that. And we've got approximately 1,200 employees between us and the Board of Education. So our Munis system, we're gearing up for that. We're attending seminars, we're attending training sessions, getting to know that. We expect our new health provider, Cigna, to come in. We met with them once, John, at their facility in Farmington to go over this, some preliminary information. We're meeting with our Munis staff. We're going to webinars and seminars and getting ready. But if you work for an organization of 50 or more employees, you will be receiving a 1095. And basically, the point of it is to say that you've been offered coverage. And if you haven't been offered coverage, then you go to the exchange. So it's an informational type document. But as far as the municipalities are concerned, if we don't do it properly, we're going to obviously do our best effort. There are fines to be associated with not reporting properly. So we're really trying to do as diligent as we possibly can. Yes, Cheryl?
Now, are you going to be printing those out yourself out of the software and mailing them?
Yes, in-house.
Unless you have your format?
Yes, and they're required, just for your own information, they're required to be mailed. You can't do it like a W-2 and include it in a paycheck or just hand it to somebody. There has to be evidence and proof of mailing, and it's quite an extensive project because we need to obviously, there's what's called a look-back period to make sure that part-time employees over the past 12 months, if they work 30 hours or more a week or more than 120 hours in a month, we now have to offer them basic coverage. Not coverage as many of the employees like myself and unionized employees receive, but basic coverage is hospitalization only. So we're going to work on a plan to prepare a document with Cigna that if we do have employees, it's probably on the Board of Ed side when they have substitutes and paraprofessionals and things like that. I've been working with Diane as far as looking at our employees, and it doesn't seem to be the case, but it could be. So we're going to try to do our best to, but we would have to offer coverage, and there is an expense to that. Yeah. So, and then we got the Cadillac tax coming up too. So we're going to have to talk about that in the budget seasons and set some money aside for that. Our estimated cost of that is about $1.7 million in 2018. So we're going to have to ramp up for that. It's going to be something else. You don't see the benefit directly. You just pay out $1.7 million. Any other questions? Hi, Alan.
I
I just had a quick question to go back to your discussion about the debt issuance. You had mentioned potential spike, but for the most part, we carry a set amount of capital debt that we know of for capital projects. And that really doesn't usually spike unless we do something like new schools or something.
That's the
like
last time it spiked, is when we issued the 50-ish million for the 2 new schools. Once it was complete, we fronted the cash, because there were state grants, but once the schools were near completion, we're required to bond, and that's when we had a spike. But the spike, once again, if you issue, let's say we issued this year, okay, generally it's an 18-year issue, you can go up to 20, but I like to keep it so it gives us flexibility, and our bond, what they call bond years, are shorter. It's a very good advantage for the rating agencies. But what happens is when you issue the debt, you have the opportunity that you don't have to pay the principal that year. It's principal 1 year and interest twice a year. So what we'll do is we'll delay that principal until the following year and only have to pay the interest. But, you know, we're probably going to issue in the neighborhood of $50 million again. That's how much we've accumulated. We've got the police tower communication system is added anywhere between 12 and 14 million. And we normally we normally approve only about 5 to 6 million a year, so this has ramped it up tremendously, and we've been pre-funding with our cash and reserves many projects for some time, road projects, culverts, and others. It's time now that we need to issue a debt, get it off the books, and start fresh.
So were you waiting for the right environment before doing that?
Well, we're in a good environment. The longer we push it off, the less costly it is to us. There's issuance cost of 5% or whatever the issue is, and obviously you start paying the interest. When we're pre-financing using our own funds, it doesn't cost us anything. Maybe some minor losses in interest income, but that's still a great advantage to not be issuing in the market all the time.
So what was the last time you did a major issuance? What fiscal year?
Was it 3 or 4 years? Where's Rob? Do you remember? I think it was 3.5 years ago. What'd you say?
I think it was 3.
3. Geez, Reese, about 3 years ago. And that's what, we have a policy that the Board of Finance has adopted to not go out any longer than 4 years and any shorter than 2. You don't want to be going on all the time because it just doesn't make sense. The issuance costs add up greatly. You've got to pay bond counsel, financial advisors, underwriters to get their split, the banks to distribute the funds. So it's better to go every 2 to 3 years, and we're right at the cusp, so it's time to do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
We can go a little lighter on the slush funds too, correct? I mean, a little softer in funding those over the next few years because we're considerably over the top on those.
Prior to your arrival, John had suggested that, and we've been doing that for the last year or so, is what we call managing our fund balance. When we have excess funds come in, to build up fund balance, we let it fall to fund balance to the savings account. Interestingly, you can put it in, but you can't take it out. So now what we're doing is when we get excess funds in any category, Board of Finance, I institute an item on the agenda to have a review and say, well, do you want to advance buy some capital equipment versus let it fall to fund balance, saves on mill rate. And we're at a point that we don't really need to add to fund balance now. We've got about 25 million in fund balance available and close to overall 30 million. But there's no need to build it up any higher than we have it right now. So if excess funds come in, we're gonna discuss and use them for what's appropriate for the city now versus later.
Okay, now one other question too, and I don't want to keep you up there
No
too
problem.
long. On the issuance of these debts, against our capital projects that are pretty necessary on the table, where does that leave us, let's say 2 years down the road? Do we have any outstanding capital projects that should be done in the near term that we're not going to be able to fund in the next 3 years?
Interesting that you should say that. Cheryl just had a short conversation with me about wanting to look at the 10-year capital improvement plan. First year is the capital budget that has legal authority. The other 9 years do not. It's a plan. It's not in the charter, but it's something that is a recommended practice. So what she's recommending is we're going to get together within the next week or two and look at what is going to happen in the short term. Next year, anticipate the 50 million going out. I would think that's got to happen, and the rates will still be low even if the Fed's increase rates 1/4 point, even as much 1/2 point. We're issuing debt under 3%. That's almost free money. So what we need to look at is after the 50 million, we cleaned up basically 50 million, and I would think we would go back to adding the 5 or 6 per year and look at that, and then we need to size and structure the next debt. That'll be very important as far as guiding the city for the next 5 years, and we're going to do that. We'll share those numbers with you.
Anything else?
Done.
Thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Item number 11. Any other business? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Council meeting will start in 5 minutes.